Welcome students, welcome after your unit test. Yes, hope you have done well in your unit test. You experienced a new way of writing your unit test. Now we will continue with our next lesson of English. Yes, so before that we have this warming up session for us. Let's see if you remember nursery rhyme you must have sung as a kid. The time to be happy is dash. The dash to be happy is here. And the way to be dash is to dash someone happy and have a little dash right here. So what are we going to do is we are going to choose the options which are given over here. So the time to be happy is, what will be the answer? The time to be happy is now, the first one. Then the dash to be happy is here. That is the second one. The place to be happy is here. And the way to be happy is to make someone happy and have a little heaven over here. Yes. So this is a nursery rhyme. The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here, and the way to be happy is to make someone happy and have a little heaven right here. Fine. Now, what does this imply? Yes, what does this mean? Does it have any connection to the lesson which we are going to do? It does have. That is why we are doing it. So, we will go ahead with our next lesson, that is 2.2 3 questions by Leo Tolstoy. Before we go with the lesson, let's have the frame sentences. The first word, proclamation. So the sentence for this is, the king issued a proclamation which freed the slaves. Yes, a proclamation means something which is issued by a higher authority which has to be followed. So the king issued a proclamation which freed the slaves. Fine. Then the second sentence we have is intently. Harry listened intently for a few minutes. Yes, so intently means carefully, with lot of attention. So Harry listened intently for a few minutes. Next word is ambush. The soldiers sensed the ambush long before it came. Someone was hiding. Yes, that is called an ambush. So the soldier sensed the ambush long before it came. Next word we have is frail. Frail means very weak. The frail woman hugged her son and left the house. Weak, a very fragile person. So the frail woman hugged her son and left the house. So these are the frame sentences which we have. Now we go ahead. We have the introduction to the author, that is Leo Tolstoy. Let's see what it is. Leo Tolstoy was born in 1828 and breathed his last in 1910, was a Russian writer who is regarded as one of the greatest authors of all time. He first achieved literary acclaim in his 20s with a semi-autobiographical trilogy, Childhood, Boyhood and Youth. A parable is a short story with a moral lesson. A parable usually has human characters. This parable concerns a king who wants to find the answers to what he considers to be the three most important questions in life. So that is why the king wants three questions to be answered. So this is a story about what are those questions and how did the king got the answers to these three questions. Fine. We'll read the lesson now. Once a certain king had an idea. If he always knew the right time to begin with, if he knew who were the right people to listen to and who to avoid, and the most important thing to do, he would never fail in anything that he would undertake, and above all, if he always knew what was the most undertaking. Since he was convinced that he was right in thinking, this way he had a proclamation made in his kingdom. He would give a reward to anyone who would teach him what was the right time. What the right time was for every action, who the most necessary people were, and how he might know the most important thing to do. So this certain king had an idea. He wanted three questions to be answered. Now what were those three questions which he wanted the answers of? Yes, The three questions which he wanted the answers was of what was the right time for every action, who the most necessary people were, and how might he know the most important thing to do. So these were the three questions, the answers to which the king wanted. So what were the three questions? What was the correct time to take an action? Who were the important people? And what was the most important thing to do? Now to get these answers, let's see what the king did. Yes, what did he do? So he sent a proclamation and we saw to get the answers from many people. Many learned people came to the court, but they all gave different answers. In reply to the first question, some said that to know the right time for every action, one must draw up in advance a table of days, months, and years, and must live strictly according to it. Others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action, but that not letting oneself be absorbed in idle pastimes, one should always attend to all that was going on and to do that which was most essential. Yet others said that it was impossible for one man to decide correctly the right time for every action, and that the king should instead have a council of wise people who would help him to fix the proper time for everything. Equally varied were the answers to the second question. Some said the people the king most needed were his counselors, others the priest, others the doctors, while some said the warriors were the most necessary. So many learned people came to his court and gave different answers, various answers. But the king was not satisfied with the answers which he got. Some said that his counselors were important, the doctors were important, the priests were important, the warriors were important people for him. Yes, and also they gave answers for the other, different answers for the other questions also. What was the right time to do those things? So for there also they said that the king had to draw up a plan in advance and execute a plan accordingly and get to know what was the right time to do it. Fine. And who were the right people is over here. So the king was confused. How would he get the perfect answer for these three questions? And he was bent upon to get the answer for this. Fine. So to the third question, what was the most important occupation? Some replied that the most important thing in the world was science, others said it was skill in warfare, and others again that it was religious worship. The king was convinced by none of these answers and gave the reward to none. So according to the king, all the answers whatever he got from so many people, he was not at all satisfied. So nobody received a reward from him. Yes. So what did he do? He decided instead to go to a hermit who was widely renowned for his wisdom. The hermit lived in a small hut in a forest which he never left. He spoke only to common folk. So the king put on simple clothes and, approaching the hermit's cell, dismounted his horse and left his bodyguard behind him. So since the king was not satisfied from the answers which he got from many people, what did he do? He decided to go to a hermit who was widely renowned, was well known for his wisdom. Yes, and the hermit lived in a forest and he never left the forest. So people had to go to him. And he did not speak to common folk. He did not speak to common people. So the king, he spoke only to common people. He did not like to interact with kings and high authorities. He only spoke to common people. So what the king had to do, since he wanted the answer for his three questions, he dressed up as a common person, as a common man, and approaching the hermit's cell, he dismounted his horse and left his bodyguard behind. Yes, so he went to the forest to meet the hermit, and his bodyguard was left behind. Okay, so we go ahead. When the king arrived, the hermit was digging the ground in front of his hut. He greeted the king, but went on digging. The hermit was frail and weak, and each time he struck the ground with the spade and turned over little earth, he breathed heavily. The king went up to him and said, I have come to you, wise hermit, to ask you to answer three questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the most who are the people I most need, and whom should I therefore pay most attention? And what affairs are the most important and need my first attention? So the king has come to the hermit, and when he arrived, what was the hermit doing? The hermit was digging the ground. Yes, in front of his house, in front of his hut. He greeted the king, but still he kept on digging. Now the hermit was frail and weak. Yes, was thin, was very frail, and each time he struck the ground with the spade, he turned over a little earth and breathed heavily. Since he was weak, he was doing a very industrious work. He breathed heavily. So since he had not that much strength, he was breathing heavily. He was panting. The king went up to him and asked him the questions which he wanted the answers for. He wanted, how can I learn to do the right thing at the right time, the people I need the most, and what affairs are of most importance which need my first attention. So he put forth these questions to the hermit, from whom he thought he could get the answers, because the hermit was a renowned person with a lot of wisdom, with a lot of knowledge. So in this part we learn that what the king wanted, and why he wanted to know these three questions, the answers to these questions. It led as to because he wanted to try to solve certain answers, certain queries, not only relating to him but also to his kingdom. And he also wanted to see to it that whatever answers he could get, those answers could help him rule better. Fine. So children, in our today's part, we will read the lesson till here only. Yes, we'll continue in our next part, the other part of the lesson. Yes, and there is a homework for you. What you are going to do is rearrange the letters given over here to make them meaningful. Yes, you have to arrange these letters. These are jumbled letters which you have to make. You have to rearrange the letters and make them meaningful. I hope it will be very easy for you to do it. This is there in your textbook also. This activity is there in your textbook. So I hope you do this. Yes, and complete it, and also do the worksheet which is available with the link today. So in this lesson, the three questions what we started with, we learned the lesson written by Leo. This lesson or this story is written by Leo Tolstoy, and in this lesson we are learning about a king who wants three questions to be answered. The three questions are, what are those three questions? The first question, who is the most important person? Second question, which is the most important time to do the work? And the third question, which is the most important occupation or most important thing to do? The king had sent a proclamation. Many learned people came to give the answers to these three questions, but the king was not satisfied and nobody got a reward. And finally, he decided to go to the hermit, who was very renowned for his wisdom, to get the answers. And he visited the hermit in simple clothes, because the hermit visited only common people. So the king visited him as a common man and wanted to get the answers to his questions. So what happened next, we will learn in our next part. So for then, Sai Ram. Thank you.